Alright guys, big welcome to all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta, and I'm here for you guys with more premium collection reveals. So, we already have covered up the one from Bermuda, Royals, Dimension Police, Nectar, and Shadow Paladins. But one of the most important strides of this set, which is actually Mofessa from Shadow Paladins, I misread this card. So the thing is, first of all, Shadow Paladin do have the opportunity to multi-attack. Maybe not that much as some other clans, but they do have that ability. So it's pretty nice that they could abuse the second ability of this card. I said that this card was more like a setup card, like Overwhelm, but it has a bit more value because you're drawing 2 cards and you're making all of your triggers grade 1s, which enable your other abilities. But also the second ability is now even better because I realized that you could do multi-attack on Shadow Paladin. So yes, I have to apologize for the first video that I made on this card. I think that this would be one of the best tries of the set, and this would maybe put Luard at the top again, which would be interesting to see some of the G era cards making a big comeback, or G era decks. Vanguard is already doing pretty well, but this card would make it even better. Alright, we could also see some other sub-clan from Shadow Paladins making a big impact. We will see. Next one is the one that when it came out, I didn't cover it up because I didn't thought this was interesting. The thing is, I expected these strides, the same as Mofessa, the same as all the others, to be strides that give you the option to go different ways. Like, if you're in an awkward situation, you could use those strides or these strides to get out of that awkward situation, which we will see later when we talk about the Amaruda, the one from Genesis. But this card has a really simple ability. It's Counterblast 3, turn some family G's on face up, discard 2 cards and heal 2. That's it. I could see this card being used in like an Angel Feather Giza deck, where you could also use kind of a Bobo in there. Like, let's say you take damage, and with that damage you could get a trigger, and that trigger could flip a 0 dragon, and then you countercharge 1, and by then having 3 counterblasts, you could use those to heal 2 more. Yes, I could see that, but in my opinion, Counterblast 3 and discard 2 is a heavy cost. For healing 2 cards from your damage zone, yes, okay, you're healing 2, but still, I would not think that this is the best that Bushiroad could have done for Angel Feathers. But that's me. I would have loved if they made something for Gabriel to make that great again, but they didn't. They made something for Giza. But yeah, it's not up to me, it's up to you Angel Feather players to figure it out and try to make this stride better than it looks like. For me, I'm not an Angel Feather player, it's just what I think when I look at this card. Right, tell me guys what you think about the Angel Feather one, because me, I'm not really that interested in that card. The thing is, this is exactly what a clan like Genesis needed. Amaruda is perfect, in my opinion. The art is pretty, it's really nice that they reprinted Amaruda, not something else. And first of all, it still has the Revolution ability, or Revelation ability, which is very good. If you don't know what it does, it's one place. You can check the top card. You have 2 options. You could leave it at the top or put it into your soul. If you leave it at the top, nothing happened. If you put it into your soul, you have to rest one of your rear guards. If you don't have a standing rear guard, then you don't have to rest anything. So then she has the ability, which is a Counterblast 1, and then you turn something from your G zone face up. And then you choose one of your rear guard, you give him an extra 10k and a crit. And then, if your soul is 4 or less, you draw 2 cards and soul charge 5. There are 2 things that comes to mind. First one is Wiseman. Give him the extra crit and the 10k. Phew, why not? Thank you. Because you don't get Himiko that easy. You have to soul blast a lot, and you have to have already a crit in your soul, and sometimes you have to draw into her because you don't have her. But this is a stride. You always have an access to this card. The second thing that comes to mind is people thinking, okay, but if I only have 4 soul, that is bad because I cannot use it, and that means I had a very bad game. Yes and no. You don't have to soul charge that much in the early game in Genesis. By soul charging only 2, you're already at 4 soul. You don't have to soul charge that much actually. You could just soul charge whenever you go to discard on that turn. But first, you get the extra 5 soul, you draw even 2 more, and then you go for your final turn. It's easy. In my opinion, this is just an amazing skill. You don't always have to benefit from the whole ability. Sometimes if you already have a good soul, you could just go into this, give the Wise Man the extra 10k in a crit, and that could be more than enough to destroy your opponent. But if you stride into her first, you could just draw extra 2, soul charge 5, which would put you at 9 soul. Perfect. Then soul charge even more and go for the Wise Man loop if needed. If you're not playing Wise Man, then you could use this with any other rare guard. It's just a good setup, in my opinion. And again, a good finisher and a good setup, just by her first ability. The second ability, which is interesting, because you Soul Blast 15 at the end of the battle that this unit attacks, you stand one of your rare guards, well, the one that you maybe give the crits and the 10k to, maybe you already have some force marker beneath that card, and you can attack again with that card, and the other rare guard that you have, because you have 2, and because it only works at the end of her battle, so you stand one of them and you have the other one, and your opponent cannot use sentinels for the rest of that turn. So this is very good. The Soul Blast 15 is a little bit much, but again, you could use it with like a Dreaming Dragon if you don't have that much cards in your drop zone and in your deck, and you have a lot in your soul, then you could use it. Even if you're going for the Wise Man loop, you could just leave your stands, and it's good. I think this is a very good card. You could combine it really well with almost every Genesis deck. By her second ability is maybe an ability that you would not use that much, but her first ability is an amazing ability. Alright, next we have the Nation Dragons. We already know what 2 of them do, the one from United Sanctuary and the one from the Dragon Empire, but what's interesting is that now we know how these cards work, the mechanic of them. It's like an ultimate stride, but without the heavy costs, without the risk of losing your G-Zone. Which is whenever you want to stride into these, you have to discard the same card name as your Vanguard, but when they go back to your G-Zone, you keep your G-Zone. Even more, you get more benefit, because when you have these cards face up in your G-Zone, you can stride without paying the cost. So every clan becomes like Luard and Gear Chronicle, like Chronojet, because now you could just stride without paying the cost. The only thing that you have to do is stride into these dragons once, and that's it. People would think, okay, but I could flip them with other stride. No, you cannot, because the second ability that this card has is this card cannot be turned face up by an ability. If this card is face up, you can stride without paying the cost. So you cannot ultimate stride, it's just say stride, but you could still stride into anything else except Zero Dragons. I do like these cards a lot. I think that the mechanic was really good, and also when we go into the abilities is not just like a game winning cards, but they are a kind of a good setup or a good extra option to use. These could be a one-off in most decks, but they could also be like a 2-off if needed, because some of them have very good ability and sometimes your opponent maybe would not expect you having 2 of them. But yeah, they would definitely be a one-off in most decks. They are even better than Ultimate Stride in my opinion, because they are good setup cards and you do not really have to pay that heavy cost of losing your G-Zone if you don't win on that turn. So the one from the Dragon Empire, of course, has the 2 abilities. You have to discard same card name as your Vanguard to stride into him, and then if you have him face up in your G-Zone, you can stride without paying the cost. And you could just stride into these cards as a first stride, it doesn't matter because they do not count G-Zone or something. The cost of this one, it's an act, it's a Counter Blast 2 and a Soul Blast of 1, and then at the end of the turn, this unit battles all of your opponent units in one attack. and also get an extra 10k, because these are 15k, not 25k, the same as the Zero Dragons. They're just 15k. The art looks a little bit like a Zero Dragon, like Drachma, but the thing is, it's like a smaller version of that. It could field wipe the same as the Zero Dragon from the Dragon Empire, but in a different way. We know that Kagero had a field wiper, and we know that Murakami has multiple strides that could attack, or grade 3s that could attack the whole field. But now, even Nubitama has actually the stride that could attack the whole field. But now, you have one that gives you the opportunity to stride without paying the cost, and all the clans from the Dragon Empire have the access to this card. Also, it has another ability. Whenever it attacks hits, you countercharge one. Okay, I don't know if this ability stacks, but I'm thinking not. If it will stack, then that would be better. I could understand that because the cost is to counterblast 2. So if you attack like and hit 2 units or 3 units, you get the countercharge free, which is good because some of the clans from the Dragon Empire could have a hard time with countercharging. Like Kagero have a lot of countercharges, but still sometimes when you play like let's say Blade Master, you sometimes really have to countercharge and look at through your counterblasts and think about what to use and what not. So yeah, I think that this is an amazing card. The ability is good. It's not a finisher. It's more like it's even not a setup card. It's like more an extra option that you could use. But whenever you use this card, you could stride for free. So sometimes, let's say you have only one grade 3 in your hand and you're playing a V deck, because the V grade 3s and the decks that use grade 3s that have markers, you sometimes have to choose between discarding that grade 3 to stride with or riding it to get the extra marker. And with this card, if you already have this face up in your G-Zone, you do not have to choose, because you could ride multiple turns and you do not have to discard anything to stride. So that's good. I think this is a very nice addition, and this is also what the set needed to do, in my opinion. Some of them maybe have a better ability than others, because we have this one from the Dragon Empire, and now we have the one from the United Sanctuary. The thing is, this card is really situational. Again, this is situational too, because if your opponent doesn't have a field, they could deny you this card. But sooner or later, they would have to commit to the field, and you could use it if you want to. Also, you have the access to this card, which your opponent do not know which grade 3s you have in your hand. So they would think, okay, I cannot call anything, because if I do, they countercharge a lot and they destroy them all. So yeah, I think that it's a very good card, like more that your opponent would have to think twice before filling up their field, and that's what makes this card an amazing card. On the other hand, we have Eknos right here, the one from the one that you could use in the Royal Paladins, Shadow Paladins, and all the Paladins with the Angel Feathers. We will talk about each and every clan, how they could use this card just in the United Sanctuary. The thing is, it also has the same ability that you have to discard the same card name as your finger to go into this card. And the thing is, second thing is that, of course, if you have her face up in your G-Zone, you could try it for free. So, first, her ability. It's a Counter Blast of 1 and a Soul Blast of 1, and you call as many cards from your hand to Vanguard as possible and draw 3 cards. That does not mean that you call your whole hand. That means if you have 4 Vanguard circles, you call 4. Because it doesn't say empty Vanguard circles, just Vanguard circles. If you have more Excel circles, those count as well. So let's say you have 1 extra Excel circle, that would mean that you have 6 Vanguard circles, so you call 6. That's how this card works. Is this card good? Yes, it is, depending on the deck that you want to use it in. Let's say, if you want to use this card in Gold Paladins, that is good, because you're already calling almost everything from your hand. So you call your whole hand, you draw 3 cards, and from that moment on, you do not have to stride with paying the cost. You could just stride without paying anything. So that's a good thing. The Chaos is only a Count +1 and a Soul +1, which is easy. And also in let's say clans like Brave, this is a good thing, because you just have to keep an alt melon in your hand and you stride into this card, but in the early game you could put everything on the table. It's also an auto ability when it's placed, so you cannot just call anything and do their stuff. You go into this card, you Count +1, Soul +1, call everything, and you get the extra 3 cards. So I think that this is an amazing card. I know that some people expected it to be different, like maybe in Genesis, in Oracle Think Tank, in Royal Paladins being blasters, if you don't want to rush. In some clans, maybe they would think this card is not that good. In Angel Feathers, I could understand people thinking, damn, this card really? But in my opinion, I think it's a good addition to some clans that really needed it. Like Gold Paladins and Altmal could really use this card, and some other clans could use it just for, like, say, stride for free. But I do not see this card being played that much in like, let's say, an Oracle Think Tank deck. But let's wait and see. On the other hand, on a Shadow Paladin deck, you could do that, because you're putting everything on the field anyway from the early game, and now you could call on the top of those great ones, and you have more cards in your drop zone, and you draw 3. So it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good card. It's just the way you use it would be interesting, and some of your on-place ability would still go off because they're placed with an ability from your hand and not just normal plays. So I don't know. Let's wait and see how people would use this card, because most people are saying that Gilgal is way better than Agnes, let's say, but I don't know. I think both of them are very good. I do think that the one from Dragon Empire is better, because it's like a weapon that you have in your arsenal and your opponent would have to think twice before filling up their field. And with this card does help out a lot if you want to rush in the early game without having any consequences, because when you go to this card, you're already drawing 3, you have your own place abilities, and then you also get your drive check, which is, yeah, you end up with 6 cards in your hand. It's good, it's not bad. You're not drawing 1 or 2, you're drawing 3 new cards from your deck. So yeah, I think it's good. Alright, that was actually the end of this video. It's a long video, but I wanted to cover everything and talk about them. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks for all the love and the support, and see you next time. Bye bye.